Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another wonderful video here on Yammie Noob. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm here in sort of an undisclosed location. I don't really quite know where I am. Somewhere in the hills here in Austin. And we are riding the wonderful CB650R. Why are we riding the CB650R? Well, if you guys don't know, we are giving this motorcycle away along with the Ninja 400 and the DRZ 400. Click the links below. Find out how you can get entered to win. It's going to be pretty sweet. The best chances to get started to win is if you enter below and click the entries, and you can get yourself signed up. If you sign up, for example, like a tier 2 package, pay $20 a month, you get 200 entries, which is the best deal, I think, in my opinion. And man, that's a pretty bike. But what are we doing today? Title of the video today is, I think motorcycles are getting too powerful. And what do I mean by that? I mean, just like, I don't know, man, 240, 300 horsepower, whatever it is nowadays. I feel like it's getting kind of crazy. So I wanted to talk about that. I want to talk about, does anyone really need that much power? How does it intersect with technology? Do we need technology to save us when we ride these 200 horsepower motorcycles? So yeah, I kind of just wanted to make a loose vlog and talk about that and have some fun. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's do this. I just gotta say, man, this bike, I think it's gotta be my favorite of all the giveaway bikes. Oh, my blinker's still on. Of course it is. Cancel that. If you take a look here, man, it's got to be my favorite of the three, honestly. But some days, some days I get a little about the DRZ, and then the Ninja 400, I'm kind of torn. Spite's new favorite is the Ninja 400, apparently. He took it out the other day, and he had a blast with it. But for me, I think the old Honda still takes the cake. It's such a sweet ride. Let's mosey it on up this little hill. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, just shuffling it on back, because I don't really feel like jumping a curb with it. Alrighty. Oh, the smoothest of sounds. Are you in first? There you go. Clicking into gear. Let's do this. Make sure you guys can see me. So as a side note, it is just absolutely the peak of the riding season here in Texas. Texas is similar to California in that we have year-long riding, but you gotta kind of pick and choose your battles when it comes to year-long riding in Texas. In the summer, I would say you have certain times that you can choose to ride unless you want to cook like a little egg. And there are other times, you go out in the morning and you have some fun, or go out later in the evening and have some fun, but in the summer it's pretty tough. But right now, I'd say between November to March, boy, it doesn't get any better than this. It's about 76 degrees right now. Can easily wear a leather jacket, feels nice and crisp outside. It's great. Doesn't get any better than this. So fittingly enough, I think, seeing that we are on the CB650, we're going to talk about power today. And why am I talking about this topic? Well, I think a couple things that I noticed at the EICMA show a couple weeks back really kind of clued me in on this. We've got seemingly two ends of the market that's happening right now. You got your hyper nakeds and your H2s and all this crazy stuff, bikes making 220 horsepower. You got the new CBR 1000 RR RSPR making 215, or supposedly. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have a new KTM 390 Adventure. You have the Aprilia RS660. You have the Ducati V2, the Panigale V2, which I think is the Panigale to get. It's definitely the one that I would get if I were to get a Panigale, because I think it's the most usable when it comes with all the electronics you need, and has all of the looks of any Panigale you'd want. So why is it that we're seeing this horsepower race kind of creep up? Well, I mean, I think it's just like, that's the progress. People perceive horsepower increase as progress. No one wants to get a bike from one year to the next that's lower on power than the bike they had, But I think we're very quickly coming up to a point where we need to just kind of be honest with ourselves as motorcyclists, as riders, that, like, as cool as a 200 horsepower motorcycle is, it's completely unnecessary. You can't do anything with it. And they're honestly not even that fun to ride on the street. I've ridden several liter bikes on the road, and it just feels like this missile that's going to get you a ticket at any second. And I don't think that's fun. I think it's more fun to really use a motorcycle and ring it out and have a good time with it. And the thing I was going to say about technology intersecting with these motorcycles is, you know, like if you have a 200 horsepower motorcycle, you need traction control. There is no way, unless you are just a 99th percentile type of rider, that you are going to be able to extract any kind of meaningful performance out of something with 200 horsepower. And at that point, it just becomes a marketing exercise. It just becomes a numbers game for you to play with your friends and for you to buy the latest and greatest and say, oh yeah, I've got the new V4S, it's got 208 horsepower and this and that. And that's cool, man, but at the end of the day, it's like, why are you riding? Is it to brag to people? Is it to say you got the big dick energy super bike, but you can't really do anything with it and you never take it to a track day and you're not serious about your riding? I have nothing against these guys, honestly. Like, I don't have anything against people who decide to drop 25 G's on a motorcycle, ride it 3 times a year, and just stunt on everybody. That's cool, man. Do whatever you want to do. It supports the industry, and you get more bikes in people's hands. And then people like me can go and buy them used later for a nice discount. But I think we just need to be honest with ourselves and say that, you know what, like, I will have more fun on a bike with less power. And if owning all of these quote-unquote beginner or starter bikes has taught me anything this year, is that I have a lot more fun on bikes with less power. It's the reason why I chose a 675 for my track bike instead of an R1 or something like that. It's the reason why my daily, my street bike, I wouldn't say my daily because I don't ride it every day, but my Scrambler is 803 cc's, it's got 75 horsepower. I don't really want much more than that. And, you know, I don't want to make the case that everybody in the world needs to do exactly what I'm doing so that we can all be happy. I'm super glad that these insane leader bikes exist and we can go buy them and enjoy them, but I don't know, I think we're seeing a bit of a reckoning in the industry where it's like, how much more can you really give people, you know? Because what's going to be next? In 10 years, we're riding leader bikes at 250 horsepower? Like, there's a limit to that, and there's a limit to, you know, the average rider's ability to extract performance out of those machines. And I'm really, really loving the fact that technology from those leader bikes is trickling to the middleweight class, because we desperately need that. We need middleweight bikes to have these advanced features and traction control and electronic aids, because then when you combine a motorcycle that has, you know, adequate power with proper traction control and all this other cool stuff, that's just a win-win in my opinion, because then it's safer, it's more fun, you can push it more, and you can have a good time with it, you know? There's a reason that in nearly all disciplines of motorcycling, people tend to go back to the little bikes because they're just more fun. Off-roading is a lot like that. I mean, if you guys follow B-Ride Moto on Instagram, for example, he went from like a 450 to a 250. Now I think he has a 125 two-stroke, which is basically like a 250 as well. But, you know, it's this search for this lighter, smaller, more agile machine, because at some point you realize that you're not going to have as much fun on some gigantic powered 450 off-road. And I think it's the same for street riding, you know? I think a lot of guys have this progression. They start off on, you know, like a 300 or 650, they get their 600, big boy sport bike, they get their leader bike, they get a 210, they're just like, dude, I gotta stunt on all these people, I gotta get the big boy bike, I gotta show them what's good. And then, you know, eventually when you do more track days and you get more experience, you know, a lot of these guys end up getting R3s again to run on the track. It's kind of funny how that works out, but then you realize that you just have more fun when it's a smaller motorcycle. It's just more rewarding. Listen to that CB, this is great. Oh, this bike's awesome. And I really am such a proponent that everybody should do a track day. Everybody should do a track day, because whatever you think about riding quick on the street doesn't mean shit on the track. I promise you. Your fast street riding will equate to nothing on track. You won't keep up with anybody, because if you're a fast street rider on the track. With very rare exceptions, that's almost always the case. And then when you go back to the street, you realize that you can't even come close to what that machine can do in enclosed environments in proper conditions, you know? It's a bit of a dead spot in this power band. It's still really noticeable. This is a great bike though. Wow, this thing's such a joy to ride. I've also met quite a few guys who, you know, are more than happy to say that, you know, they just want to ride a smaller bike. You know, I think that a lot of older guys who don't have as much ego, you know, I've seen on forums and stuff, they're just like, you know what, I've never owned a 1000 and I'm perfectly happy. Like, I'm having a great time not owning a 1000cc sport bike. I don't really feel like I need it. And it's interesting because the off-road market's super similar. A lot of guys start off on big adventure bikes, Africa Twins and that kind of stuff, and then they realize that what they're actually looking for is something like a KTM 250, you know, because it's light, agile, nimble, easy to pick up if you drop it. I mean, the thread is really clear in my opinion. I just hope that the motorcycle industry responds, and stuff like the RS660 and the KTM Adventure 390 and the Panigale V2, which is, it's crazy to think that the small brother Panigale, the V2, has 155 horsepower and is nearly 1000 cc's. It's more powerful than the 918 that came out like a generation ago. You know what I mean? Like, that's just lunacy. To say that that's your middleweight and that's like your, you know, oh, that's the little one you get, that's insane. Guys, if you haven't ridden a motorcycle, because I know a lot of you guys that watch this channel have not actually ridden yet, 155 horsepower is a lot of power. That's a lot of go juice, and it's more than you need. Trust me, it's more than you need. That's why it's insane to think of these leader bikes with 217, 220 horsepower. A lot of journalists are saying this too, where they're just like, you know what, like, I'm riding these bikes and I just feel like I can't ride them to their limit. I can't ride them at all. Michael Neves from motorcyclenews.com, I believe it's MCN, yeah, he took the V4R on a test ride back when it came out, and he was like, this is a tool for professionals. This is a motorcycle for professional level riders. I feel silly riding this thing. And that's Michael Neves. He's an incredibly quick rider. So I think a lot of people are starting to just be like, you know what, I don't really know if we really need all this power, man. Again, guys, I'm not saying that we shouldn't make these bikes. There's clearly a demand for them. They make them because someone's going to buy them. So I don't care that they make them. I just think that if you actually care about motorcycling and you really care about, you know, learning the craft and understanding the ride and understanding how to really get good and ride quickly and confidently, you'll very quickly realize that a leader bike doesn't make any sense at all for like 90% of people. And also, it's like, don't worry too much about the power. That's really not the end-all be-all of motorcycling. For me, whenever I see a new motorcycle, the last thing that I'm looking at is power figures, honestly. I don't really care that much about power figures on a bike anymore. What I care about is ergonomics and weight. Weight is very important to me, depending on the type of bike I'm looking at getting. Little Honda would do pretty well on the track, I think. It needs better tires, though. These Michelins are very numb. I don't feel too much coming out of them. I encourage you, if you're able to, ride as many motorcycles as possible, because that'll really give you perspective on what it is that you want, what it is that you like, what you actually are looking for in a motorcycle. For a lot of guys, for example, I think they want the super sports. They look at something like the you know, what you call it, the ZX6, the R6s, that kind of stuff. It's like, man, I really want that bike. But then they don't realize how uncomfortable they are on the street. They're just ridiculously uncomfortable to drive around. But then they go and buy something like an R6 or a ZX6, and then they ride it around until they ride a naked bike, and they're like, whoa, this thing is really comfortable. It's still sporty. It's got tons of torque. Like, this is awesome. So, you know, ride a lot of bikes. See what you like. There's one guy on our Discord server, for example, it just came to my mind. He bought a CBR 1000 RR big bad leader bike, and he rode it for like, I think, a couple months and just hated it. He just really didn't like it. Then he ended up switching to a VFR 800. You know, smaller displacement, much more comfortable, sport touring, and he says it's all he needs. You know, he says that he doesn't really need anything much more than that, and I tend to agree. So yeah, guys, what do you think of the horsepower wars? Leave me a comment down below. I'm curious to see what you make of it. I think it's really silly. I think it's crazy that we're getting to the point where people think that they need 215 horsepower to have fun on a motorcycle. But that's just my opinion on it. Would love to hear yours. Leave me a comment down below. Check out the beginner bike giveaway series as well, giving this bike away for free, which is pretty awesome. Hit the link below, get signed up to win. It's gonna be awesome. YammieNoob.co is your best way to get your entries, by the way. So yeah, check those out. Check out our merch as well. Every dollar you spend gets you an entry to win these wonderful bikes as well. And yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.